again, Uniters, and I'm here with you with another UIC video. We have a lot to unpack today, a lot as it pertains to justice. So we're going to jump right into it. So we're hearing that the 3 police officers that shot 3 men in Kingston, they're going to be detained. And they're going to be detained until the investigation takes place by Indicom. We commend the JCF for taking action, but when the UIC pressures for action to be taken, we're not asking for a show or a sham. We're asking for genuine action. So, what are the grounds under which these officers were detained? Is there evidence or strong evidence that suggests that they have contravened the law, one, and in contravening the law that they pose a flight risk? Will there be charges leveled against them? Because we don't want them to be detained and then you hear that investigation is completed in a week and there's no evidence, or hear that they were actually walking free when they were said to be detained. What we want is for a proper, thorough investigation of the police action and then arrest, not detention, because a detainee can apply to be released. Okay, not detention, but a proper arrest after charges have been laid, charges that can be substantiated by the Crown. So we don't want a sham show of them making detentions of officers that are alleged to have acted against force orders or against the law. So we need the JCF to get this right, and that won't happen based on what we are seeing under the circumstances that we are seeing. So the UIC is very much not impressed with what has happened, but rather concerned that the force is moving from one extreme to the other. And if it will do this to its members, imagine what it will do to the public. So that's where our concerns are. So we're asking the JCF to not move from one extreme to the other, but have one standard for everyone, whether you're a force member or you're a member of the public or civilian. Now, on the other hand, we see the JCF putting out a press release that says it stands by its members who have been recently cleared, recently as in yesterday, cleared of any wrongdoing in the killing of Keith Clark, a noted accountant, and he was killed during operations to apprehend the alleged drug kingpin. Well, he's convicted now, so the convicted drug kingpin, Dudus. Now, here's what I find very strange. The judge, in making a declaration, it's reported that it's Justice Dale Palm, make a no-case submission. Well, the no-case submission was upheld by the judge, so he accepted the no-case submission from the defense attorney for these soldiers. And the JDF is celebrating that, which I think is a crying shame that a member of our community, a citizen who was 64 years old at the time of his death, which means he posed limited to no threat at the time of his killing for his advanced age. I mean, he could have had a weapon, which the evidence showed that he doesn't. But if he did, the threat level he posed was very limited. But a 64-year-old senior citizen of this country was shot, and wait for it, 25 times. 16 of those were in his back. But there is no wrongdoing. So you're telling me that the law of this land allows members of the security forces to shoot you in the back excessively and to the point where it causes your death. The autopsy showed that he was hit 16 times in the back. The rest of it included his face, his forearm, his heart, his lungs. 16 times in the back, a total of 25 times he was shot. And when you see the picture of his house that was riddled with bullets, literally the entire front of the house was riddled with bullets. All right? They're allowed to do that, and there's no culpability. So even if they weren't wrongful, as in culpable for murder, how about manslaughter? How about manslaughter? A citizen of this country has lost his life. His family was traumatized because his wife and daughter was there at the time of his killing. And the JDF sees that as something to celebrate and stand by their soldiers in the killing of a citizen. This go back to background slavery days, when the uniformed forces didn't really care about the value of life. And them didn't have the cane fields in Westmoreland that beat us back into the cane fields. And them did a crackheads, a Carl Gardens on behalf of the JLP when they were trying to destroy and ethnically cleanse the Rastafarians from this island. And that continues today. If you are no one, if you are not one of breeding and money, then anything can happen to you in this country. That is what is on display right now. Justice was denied the Clark family, was denied to the Clark family. Because Mr. Clark is dead, shot 25 times, 16 of that in the back, but yet the 3 persons who were charged with the murder don't have a case to answer to. So what happened to the ballistic evidence? Wasn't it their weapons? And if it wasn't, whose weapons were used in this killing? As I've said before, and I keep saying it over and over, the system is used and left weak by the politicians so they can continue to exploit it. Because it is these same 3 soldiers that were given an immunity certificate after the fact of this killing to avoid prosecution in the first place. And it was international pressure why charges were brought in the first instance. That can't be justice. We need to see justice be done. We must be perceived to be done as well as be done. And that is not happening. Because there is no way a 64-year-old man can be killed and the persons charged with the crime don't have a crime to answer to. Unless by some miracle it wasn't their weapon. And if it wasn't their weapon, then where did the investigation lead to discover the actual weapons used and link those weapons to the actual perpetrators of this crime? And the JDF celebrates. There'll be no further action. The completely riddled house, covered in bullets, did they at any time exceed force orders? Did they act beyond the scope of the rules of engagement? Because these are military personnel. So they don't subscribe to standard policing policies and directives. And that is why a military unit is not accepted as a policing unit in most places in the world. Because they are the pointy tip of the spear, designed to strike at a target. You point and let go. They are the blunt pointed end that will impale you. And that blunt pointed end was turned at Mr. Keith Clark on that day. Just as it has been turned on citizens throughout Jamaica without any checks or balance. And we find that acceptable because it doesn't happen to us. Come on, Jamaica. The saying is the same: knife that sticks the goat sticks the sheep. So today, or 14 years ago, was Keith Clark. Tomorrow can be any one of us. And speaking of 14 years, yes, it has been 14 years since the killing and the verdict today. Imagine how incredible that is. It's the same thing that is happening to Joseph L. Patterson, as he has sat for 4 years waiting for justice. When are we going to accept that our judiciary is broken The JLP and the PNP has no will, no moral authority, no political will to fix it because it serves their corrupt means. When will we stand for better? And if we can't trust our local judiciary, how can we trust the constitution they want us to now sign on to? How can we trust their Caribbean Court of Justice that they want us to sign on to and pass our sovereignty to a collective group? Vybz Kartel was lucky. He had money to go to the Privy Council and had his case properly adjudicated. Joseph Patterson doesn't have that option right now. His career is being stifled. Okay? And what about all the others who have suffered in incarceration, waiting for their day in court? Let us rally for good governance, for a government that is separated thoroughly from the facets of the state with no undue influence. Let us understand that justice is liberty. The UIC plans to make sure that that separation is clear. And not only that, we will make sure that the facets, the organs of the state function properly and are properly equipped to deal with the situations that they face and don't resort to excesses against its citizens. That respect for your rights as a citizen is paramount in every state actor's mind when you encounter them. Well, good. Until next time, one Jamaica.
One Jamaica TV.